Well, Todd, we will get started with the Fast Five. So to get started, what is your name?
Yeah, so Todd Barkley.
And and Todd, what's your farm's name?
We just go by Barkley Ranch, and then we have a LLC that's Barkley's Homegrown LLC.
Oh, very good. And where are you located?
Southeast Montana, Baker, about 15 miles southwest of Baker.
Oh, okay. And what livestock species do you graze?
Yeah, so we sort of a diverse mix of cow-calf pair. We have a spring and a fall herd. Our small herd or our fall herd's a little bit smaller. It's growing in scope. Angus predominantly. We threw some Galloway in on our fall herd just to have some hair going through the winter. And then
Oh, yeah.
we run stocker cattle too. So we'll keep all of our heifers and breed most all of them and then the light into the steers. But going with this fall program, we're retaining all them as stockers and trying to shorten up our spring calving season. So we're not running many of those calves as stockers. So,
Oh, yeah.
or any of the steers. Yeah.
And what year did you start grazing animals?
Yeah, so I'm actually the fourth generation on the ranch. So I went to college, have an elementary education degree, came home in 1995, and worked off the farm a little bit and worked with my neighbor. And so we started leasing the neighbor's place in 97. So I would say then, in earnest on our own. And then we leased the home place too. And then in 2007, we bought the neighbor's place, my wife and I did. So, yeah. So it's been a journey for sure.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of grass-based livestock producers and exploring regenerative practices that improve the land, animals, and our lives. I'm your host, Gal Hardage, and each week we'll dive into the journeys, challenges, and successes of producers like you, learning from their experiences and inspiring each other to grow and graze better. Whether you're a seasoned grazer or just getting started, this is the place for you. Are you ready to turn market data into your competitive edge? Introducing the newest course from Noble Research Institute, MarketSMART Ranching. Learn how to evaluate the true worth of your livestock and assets, break down costs, and time buying and selling decisions like a pro. It's all about making smart, market-driven moves that put you ahead. Join Noble for MarketSMART Ranching, October 14th and 15th in McKinney, Texas. Scholarship and grant opportunities are available for those who qualify. Visit noble.org and select Find a Course to learn more about MarketSMART Ranching or enroll today, because smart decisions can lead to a stronger ranch. For 10 seconds about the farm, wait, before I go further, let me warn you, it will be longer than 10 seconds today for the farm and for the podcast, but it's great stuff. If you don't want to hear it, just fast forward. 10 seconds about the farm. I started the year wanting to do some ultra high density grazing, and I can't get to ultra high density with my forage and the livestock I have. So I'm just pushing that weight limit to get up there. So I did that for a little while till I ran into some electric fence woes I've talked about in the past. Then at that point, I went to some slower rotations with one herd, and the other herd, actually same thing, slower rotations, but more like grazing in the sweet spot like Tom Kravik's suggests in ranching like a 12-year-old. So I've been doing that. Then we baled hay. And as we've talked about, we baled a little bit more hay than I planned. And since we baled hay, I've been doing rotational overgrazing. I'd like to say I'm always doing the right thing. I'm not. You have to look at your context, what's going on in your world, and decide what's best for that time. And I've been doing rotational overgrazing. I'm moving back into that grazing in the sweet spot. When I say rotational overgrazing, what do I mean by that? I'm still moving my cows by moving them much slower, a week, 10 days, even 2 weeks into a pasture before I'm moving them on. And when I think about moving them, I want to move them before that regrowth starts, which is going to be 2, 3, 4 days, depending on your weather. In our area, about 3 days. It's been nice and wet, except it's gotten drier, so I can push that out a little bit longer. But I've gone further than that. So they are overgrazing some. That's just the nature of the beast. But that's okay. Whenever you're managing your pasture you want to do as much moving as you can, but sometimes you have to slow down for whatever reasons, because moving your animals is not the only thing you're doing. So think about your context, what's going on. And I know I'm doing some overgrazing. I know it's happening. I'm still moving my cows a little bit slower, but that's what I needed to do at the time. So the big takeaway is you should be moving your cows. Move them as often as you can. And if you have to go longer than you like for a little while, it happens, but just move them at some point. So that was longer than 10 seconds, Carson. For 10 seconds about the podcast. Speaking of Carson, I had the opportunity to go to Utah and visit Redmond Agriculture, see their operation, go down into their salt mine. They had a few other people there as well. A couple of note that you may know, TDF Honest Farmer on Facebook. He runs a conventional dairy. If you're not following him, you should follow him. And then Jared Lumen from Ranching Returns. He was out there, really enjoyed the time out there. I want to thank Redmond for that opportunity. Just getting to see what they're doing. Jared and I talked a lot about podcasting, among other things. So it was a really good time. I really enjoyed it. And I want to thank Redmond for giving me that opportunity. If you're in Utah, they do mine tours, but it's not very often. You want to get on their website and check it out because it's really cool. We went down 600 feet. And in my experience going in a mine, I'm a little big, but they have excavated. I don't know if that ceiling is 50 feet, 60 feet high. It's crazy amount of room, but I do have some photos that I'll be pushing out on social media as well. So you want to catch those. And again, over 10 seconds, but that's okay. We're going to go back and talk to Todd. Now, it sounds like growing up, you did not necessarily think you were coming back to the ranch, or did you think, I need to get an off-the-farm job so I can ranch?
Yeah, no, actually through high school, because our place was at that time average size, but we farmed and ranched. And my grandpa went into CRP. So you know how that sort of dislocated a generation, right? I guess that's a conversation all itself. But I worked for a neighbor, and he was also a school teacher. And I always wanted to be in production agriculture, not necessarily the other aspects of agriculture. And so I thought, well, wow, he could teach and be in production agriculture. So I don't know, you remember the 80s and 90s, and agriculture was pretty tough, right? And so, we went to college, and I did get an elementary ed teaching degree, came home, and that's a funny story too. Got one job, Plevna, little local community. They had kindergarten roundup. No kindergarten showed up. So my 6th grade position got bumped because the kindergarten teacher went all the way up. They just bumped him up.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, so I was hired and fired all at the same time, so. And then, but the ironic thing is we had a terrible blizzard in 96 and a spring blizzard, and my neighbor was getting old. He lost a pile of cattle. He came to me that spring and said, "Hey, Todd, you want to lease my place?" And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I'd already taken a teaching job. So I said, yes, but I'll lease it because I thought I'm going to do both, because it's a neighboring place. I mean, it neighbors us all on the west side. So I said, yes. They had the kindergarten roundup. Everything just worked out as planned. And then in 2007, we bought this ranch. So, yeah.
Did you end up teaching any?
So a lot of pre-service, or not pre-service, but substitute teaching.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then a couple of teachers had children or their kids, babies. And so I'd take their class for 6 weeks, 8 weeks,
Oh,
whatever
yes.
the maternity
Yeah, doing
time
the
was.
maternity leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And so later on with what we do on the ranch, a lot of what we do, we try to tie back into education because they are both of my passions, education and agriculture. And so we try to open our ranch up as a learning opportunity for the younger generation. And some of what we do are enterprise units trying to bring the younger generation back. And I think e-call or eShepherd is one of those enterprise units to try and
Oh, yeah.
maximize.
Yeah.
So yeah, and with the greenhouse, we have a geothermal greenhouse with Barkley's homegrown, just all those little things we do. And even in our process through our grazing was all enterprise units because it was a way to get me to fit back on our ranch because it was smaller. And I was
Oh, yeah.
trying to make ways of increasing our numbers while still keeping our grass healthy and increasing, right? Regenerative, making something poorer better. And so through that journey, it's been a journey, let's put it that way. So yeah.
Well, one thing about that, Todd, that jumps out, it doesn't mirror my journey, but there's a lot of commonalities with my journey. I left the farm to get an animal science degree because I wanted to dairy, but I actually thought I needed to get a job off the farm so I could do it. But because of life circumstances, I came home and dairied with my folks, and then we sold out in 99. And then I'm looking around thinking, what am I going to do? I have this passion for agriculture, but I was also in love with education. So I went back to school and got my early childhood degree.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I was in schools for a little over 2 decades, but
Okay.
all the time trying to figure out how I can do the farm and do it. And, it makes for long days, but, education does have some of those advantages that you mentioned. Some of the hours, I hate to say they're shorter, but it is 8 to 3 physically there, but there's still lots of after hour stuff. It looks better on paper than it is in practice.
Well, yeah, and similar to the ranch, your
Yeah,
mind is always on the kiddos
it is. Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
it's funny because when I pre-service taught so many years ago, I actually have a custom combiner right now, and he was in my 4th grade pre-service.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so when I student taught, he was a 4th grader, him and his twin brother. So,
Oh, cool.
life does a full circle.
Oh,
But
it does.
and when I talk, like if I'm a keynote speaker at an FFA chapter or something, I just tell them, I said, there's only 2% or maybe less than 2% of us that are lucky enough to be in production agriculture as far
Oh,
as the
yeah.
managers and operators. But man, we rely on so many people that are involved in the agricultural side that have to have a knowledge of agriculture.
Oh,
It
yes.
is so important that when people think of agriculture, they just think a lot of times of us, but man, we're only 2% of it. There's 98% of the other population that we rely on. And
Right.
yeah, sales, auctioneer. I mean, the list goes on. So I really encourage for FFA and 4-H to just get involved in sales and service. There's just so many aspects of agriculture. And for me, I was not interested in that so much. I did want to be in production agriculture. I knew that. And it worked out. And I was sort of aggressive when I came back from college because when the place went back into CRP and we'd cut our cow numbers back and my dad become sheriff and my grandpa was working off, it could have been so easy for them to just sell it,
Oh, yes.
and I started doing some electric fencing, trying to, water pipelines and just, trying to utilize stuff that wasn't utilized before just so I could and they let me. I mean, that's another huge part too.
Oh,
They
it
let me
is.
do
Yes.
that. And yeah, so that's sort of how our journey began. And then by doing some of that and realizing to get maximum or potential out of some of this, you got to start figuring out how to conserve water and this, that, and the other thing. So yeah.
You mentioned electric fence and moving animals. What brought that idea to you? Where did you get exposed to that?
Yeah, so when I came home from college in 95 or 96, we had Ann Fisher with NRCS had just come to Baker as the DC in at the Conservation District or Natural Resource and Conservation. And she was really a soil health, that's where her passion was, right?
Right.
And so it just worked out that we sort of, you know, she had worked in North Dakota for 4 or 5 years before she came to Montana, and she's from Dickinson originally. So she was pals with Gabe Brown, Jerry Doan. I mean, the who's who in regenerative agriculture
Oh,
right
yes.
now. Neil Dennis from Canada. I mean, so she introduced us to them uh clear back in like 98, 99.
Oh, yeah.
So 20, 25, 26 years ago. And and then we have some pretty neat people around Baker too, like a Bannister from Weibo, the boom and bust system, and twice over grazing with Lee Mansky out of North Dakota State. And so in order to do a lot of that stuff, you have to make pasture sizes down. And our place is sort of unique. We're in the northern Great Plains, right? And so a pretty intact native system, but we're also and when I talk about our grazing systems, every ranch is unique, but we're still within the 60-mile buffer of the railroad when they gave out land.
Oh, yes.
So a lot of this country was farmed because the homesteaders tried to prove it up.
Right.
And it was
Yeah.
very poor farm ground because they could only use horses to pull through sand, not gumbo, right? So so a lot of stuff going on, a lot of opportunity to fence, but no water either. That's another thing I need to
Hmm.
state is a lot of times our water is 1,000 foot deep. Didn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
pipelines back in the day. So, learning the importance of water spread, getting the water spread out throughout your ranch and then be able to go in with electric fence and just make smaller pastures, increase your cow numbers by that. Yeah. So clear back in the late 90s, early 2000s when Ann, introduced me to some of that. I just thought, wow, okay, I can do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
And talking about
um,
water, just let's talk just a little bit about your environment you're working in.
right.
How
So,
much your precipitation, what kind of growing season do you have?
yeah, so, we're 9 to 10, 12-inch rainfall. And when I say that, I have a friend in Iowa that in 45 years of his farming, he's only had 2 failures. Well, in my 30 years, we probably had 15, right? So
Oh, yeah.
it's a boomer bust. Our,
Mm.
our mean precipitation is just crazy. Our growing season, basically from the 15th of May to the 15th of July. But we're in a pretty unique spot where we have about 50% uh, warm season grass and 50% cool season grass. I mean, there's a nice mix here. And it's not
Oh,
we're a short grass prairie, but we do have a nice mix of warm and cool season grasses and forbs in our native population. So I'd say if we're putting cover crops and stuff in, we want to have that stuff seeded by Father's Day, the 20th of
oh, yeah.
June, not much later, because that's the end of our what I'm going to call our monsoonal season, which is 2 or 3 inches of moisture in the spring, and then usually July, August is pretty dry. In
Oh,
September
yeah.
we'll get a little bit more moisture, but yeah. So we when they say take half, leave half, a lot of times, that's one of our drought buffers. Like we'll leave half because maybe the next year we won't get any rain. You
Oh,
can you can
yes.
grow a lot of stuff with 6 inches of moisture, but it's got to come at the right amount of time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and if we don't catch something in March and April, as in a snow, February, March, April, or even November, October, November the year before, our drought triggers are already starting to kick in a little bit. So yeah,
When, when you talk about forages, you've got some warm season natives, some cool season natives. What do you predominantly have?
so our western wheatgrass, green needle, some of the like grama grasses. Oh, we have some prairie sand reeds. We have some of the blue stems, but not so much the big blue stem. We have little
Oh yeah,
blue
you're too
stem.
far north for that.
A little bit too far north,
Yeah.
yeah. Now we're starting to, in some of our pasture seedings, we are trying to get big blue stem in,
Oh yes.
but we'll have sand blue stem, and yeah, and then some like side oats grandma, but yeah, so that's, and then a bunch of forbs.
Oh
And
yeah.
my daughter is actually a range scientist, so
Oh yes.
she is much more in tune with the names of all of them. But yeah, but really really short grass. I mean, it's 3 acres a cow a month on a traditional grazing, right? So a 9-month grazing season, you want 27 acres just to run a cow calf pair.
Oh yeah.
Now that's traditional. So if you get into non-traditional
Right.
like we're doing, then of course that's how a person can increase their numbers and still do good by the grass. So yeah.
Right. That gives you that increases your productivity, gives you a
Oh
little bit
yeah,
more wiggle
absolutely.
room, but you're
Yeah.
in there about that 27 acres per cow, which is just
Yeah.
it's hard for me to fathom, to be honest. I'm in Northeast
Yeah.
Oklahoma. However, we do have family from Amarillo, Texas. We go out there for family reunions, and I go out there and I'm like, I'm not sure how you all feed a cow at all.
Right. Right. Or look at these 100,000 acre ranches in Nevada, and it's like they're running 100 cows. So, and and saying that, where we are, it's our topography or our geology is like a ridge and valley,
Oh yes.
and these storm systems follow, that. We lease from some people from Georgia. They're awesome. They they have a hard time fathoming just within the county how different like production can be on our
Oh
grasses
yes.
and stuff, and land is not land, equal, acre
Right.
for acre, dollar for dollar, rent for rent. And that's been an interesting journey too. Explaining that, I guess it polishes me up on why we do what we do and,
Oh yeah.
how we can do what we do. So, yeah.
You mentioned there earlier, you mentioned cover crops and seeding of some species in there, for instance, the blue stem. Are you doing a lot of cover crops? Are you doing a
Uh,
lot of overseeding or anything?
you know, so when we do a cover crop, it'll be a full season cover crop.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, because like I said, a lot of times for our growing season, we're limited to about 5 inches of rain. So it's really hard to do it as a second,
Right.
because we're not, if we take like, especially, well, the warm season grasses, if we get lucky like this year and catch some July, August rains, they can really do wonders. It's just that like 30% of the time we'll catch a July, August rain. The other
Oh,
70%
yeah.
not. And, it costs just as much to acre to put them in so,
Right.
but yeah, so like we farm a couple thousand acres. And so I'll put 200 acres of cover crop in there. And I think that's really this journey through regenerative agriculture. When we started, and it's a grazing podcast, but you can make quite a correlation between the farming and the grazing because we've always measured organic matter and stuff in our crop ground just so we knew what the fertilizer was, right? When you
Oh,
go out
yes.
and take samples.
Right.
So we have a pretty good baseline on how that works. And when we start looking at organic matter out in our native range and in some of our tame grass pastures, we haven't done that as much. But in my journey through regenerative agriculture, I found right away that we had to retain that moisture. That was a game changer. 2 inches when you're only getting 9 to 12 is 20%. And if you can,
Oh, yeah.
if you can get that to hold in that ground. So
Hmm.
when we started doing the no-till, we gained from like 0.8% organic matter in our fields because they were 50-50 crop fallow. We went from 0.8 to 1.8. We gained that 1%
Oh,
really
yes.
fast. And then it took us a long time to get to the 2.8%. And if you go by university studies, they say, oh, you can't build a percent organic matter, it takes 10 years. Well, the old fashioned way it does. But then when you bring Gabe Brown and some of these guys in and using the livestock and cover crops, you can create that dynamic and really speed the process of building that organic matter because you're building it from the ground up instead of from the top down, right?
Oh, right.
And so that's why we've integrated cover crops, because we gained that 2% organic matter, and then we were sort of at a stalemate. We had to do something different. We had to just create I don't know if you've ever listened to Randall Cunning or Randall. I watch some of his podcasts all the time, but like these major events that piece of ground would never have in 1,000 years. You do that, and it's just amazing how that ground responds to that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Neil Dennis, he passed away. He was out of Canada, a grazer. Oh, just a fantastic resource. And anyways, he called it his deep massage. When he took a bale and didn't roll it out, he just set it there and let the cows come in and graze it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And on areas that just he thought needed attention, and gave it that deep massage. And so these cover crops aren't really the deep massage, but they add that extra, there's 16 species cover crops too. So they got all kinds of diversity to them. And it gives that stimulation. It'll be interesting to see in the next 2 or 3 years if we can get that 0.5% organic matter just by doing this a lot faster than in the 20 years it took us to get the 2%, So
when you're not raising a crop on a piece of property and you put a cover crop in, you're also integrating livestock into that.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And a lot of times we'll do some swath grazing of that. So we'll go in like about now, because a fair amount of that is warm season. There's some millets and some sedan grasses and some sorghums in there. But then we got peas and lentils and there's some brassicas.
Oh, yeah.
Radish, turnips. So we'll actually go in there and swath that down and let that regrow. By swathing that down and windrowing it, it'll lock the nutrient levels into that.
Oh, yeah.
And then, the warm season grasses and stuff, if we do catch some rain, will regrow. So we get a double factor in that. And the regrowth isn't so much for the up above, but it below, stimulates those roots to, and then we'll winter graze. We'll winter graze that through the winter. And it's just sort of one of our stockpile forages, I guess you'd say,
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving away from forages just a little bit, let's talk a little bit about your cattle and the journey they've gone through. So I believe you said mainly Black Angus.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that was your base 25 years ago?
It really wasn't.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, when I come home, our cow herded, we had some Tarrantees, we had just a whole bunch of stuff. There just wasn't a direction. So when I came home, the majority of the cattle were black, but I wanted to build the cow herd. And so I started AIing, and I started putting sex semen, heifer semen in my cows. Okay.
Oh, yes.
Because I wanted to, I'm a firm believer in epigenetics. Okay. I'm a firm believer in these cattle that are raised on your place. They're used to the grazing. They're born on your place. So I just wanted heifer calves. So I put black heifer semen in, and then we'd clean up with Hereford bulls. I knew exactly what was AI bred because they come out straight black. My cleanups were baldies. And so I did that for about 7 years and got a nice, good foundation cow herd. And then we still kept the Hereford bulls around, but we went to bull breeding, and so that was sort of and we were March calvers, middle of March calvers.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we started doing we started building our numbers. We started building our herds. We took on this extra ranch. We took on a couple other ranches. We got up to 350, 400 head of mother cows and went through a couple really rough marches and thought, we're not doing our justification to the cows. So then we went to the middle of April calving. And when you have your epigenetics in your cow herd built for middle of March calving and you go to middle of April calving, that sort of throws them off a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Because now we're breeding in July when it's 100 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So hence my fall calving program, right? because I was taking a terrible amount of fallout, and I just couldn't rip the Band-Aid off of all those years of AIing and stuff.
Right.
And I thought and I couldn't have June calves. If we have June calves in eastern Montana and we're 100 degrees like for 10 days in a row, it just cooks them little calves. I mean, they just stuns them like a blizzard would stun them.
Oh, yes.
So I thought, I still calve the middle of April, and I want to be done by the 1st of June. And then I'll take those cows that don't breed and I'll throw them into my fall herd, right? And then I'll breed them in November to calve in August. Matter of fact, we're just getting our fall calves are just calving right now. And and then of course you hit droughts like in 2021 and you get to sell, 30-year cows just to stay in business.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah. So we're not quite at our full capacity with cow calves yet, but we are retaining more yearlings and stuff. But
and through that, sorry, Todd, just through that. So when you were AIing to Angus bulls, and then you were using a Hereford cleanup bull. Now, I think you mentioned once you even stopped with the AI, you kept those Hereford bulls on. Did you bring in Angus bulls at that point too? Or were you going for a black baldy?
No, we brought in the Angus because I needed my replacement females.
Yeah. So your black baldies were your terminal cross, basically.
Yep, they were my terminal cross, and then we would sell them. We'd keep them and breed the heifers because, I mean, the baldy cow is the queen of the pasture around here. I mean, they just got a lot of stuff going for them, right?
Yes.
But it's pretty hard to sell a May calving heifer. So then we would keep the May calving baldies in our own herd. Okay.
Oh,
okay. So we always run like a 55, 60 head baldy herd too.
Oh, okay.
Our best cows.
Yes.
And I like to say our best cows, right? And then in 2021, when the drought came, that was our first swing herd. I mean, we got rid of our stocker steers, and then we ended up having to get rid of our baldy cows too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
And then my son actually leased a place over in North Dakota when he still had a year left of college, 300 cow place. He couldn't say no. He wanted to finish college. And so he bought a bunch of May, June calving cows. And then I sent the Hereford bulls over to them on them boughten cows. And then I just stayed straight black. And then in our fall, our fall herd, because we get 50 below in the wintertime.
Right.
I mean,
I see the maps, and when you guys are getting that cold, I'm like, stop, don't come further south.
Right. So we're a 3B, if you're looking at like growing zones, we're a 3B, which is cold. It's a desert cold, and so some of my concern going into winter with baby calves. So we actually brought some Galloway bulls in, and I put them in on my spring herd too, because I want to get some half-blood bulls I'll retain for my own units. But, they have the second most dense hair coat next to the bison, which is pretty interesting. And, we fight flies and insects up here too. And that double hair coat sort of protects them even for some of that stuff. So, trying to get away from the fly tags and everything like that. We're only into it. We bred our first heifers this year. So we're only into it about 3 years. And so it's interesting to see.
How are you liking it up to this point?
So I feel sorry for them in the summertime because they have that hair in the summertime too, and it gets pretty hot for them.
To be honest, Todd, I feel sorry for everyone with hair.
Right.
Just some of us are blessed, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But my daughter actually, we just had our fair, and she had a quarter Galloway 4-H steer, and they did the ultrasound, and I mean, it won, or it was in the top 3 in the carcass data. So I'm happy with that.
Good. Yeah.
I have a really good friend from Iowa, the same guy that's only had 2 disasters in 45 years. He comes up bird hunting. He buys my calves 3 or 4 or 5 times through the 15 years that I've known him. And he says, you got to get that Galloway thing out of your head. He says, they're just 150 pounds lighter than everything else. Bart likes big cattle.
Well, and actually that's one question I had. What's it do to your size?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in moderate cattle, but I'm also a firm believer in, the further north you go, things get bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, in nature, right?
Yeah. So your white-tailed deer, will you compare a size of a buck here to what getting harvested in Montana, it's different.
And then even from here to Canada,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is only 150 miles, is huge. And then you look at our grizzly bears compared to Alaska's brown bears.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So when we start talking smaller cattle, and I do have a smaller than average cow herd, but that's another reason I brought the Galloway in, is to get some bone structure. I still think you can have a smaller frame cow, but you better have some substance to their bone and stuff to put up with our environments. And I think that's why the black baldy cow is such a queen of the pasture up here. Hereford has that nice bone structure.
Oh, yes.
You put that with the Angus cattle, and it's just, and so the Galloway, and I tried to buy on the bigger side of the Galloway. They're black Galloway. They're not the belted Galloway.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I was searching for bulls that had a little bit more frame, because my cattle are small enough framed, like every 4 or 5 years when we're preg checking, the guy that I have preg check has a scale, and we'll weigh every cow. And in the fall, consistently they average 1225, about 1,225 pounds. So, we have some bigger ones and some smaller ones, but I think that's a pretty nice size for around here. And I like hair. I mean, I like to watch Greg Judy. I mean, I've learned a lot with Greg, just watching him, and I like our cattle to slick off in the summertime too. They got to have hair.
Oh, yeah.
They have to have hair going through the winter. But yeah. So, what's funny is these cows weigh 1225, but Bart will get those steers up to 1550. I mean, he'll get them big.
Oh, yes.
And like I said, he has about 30 Galloway steers in that bunch. And he just says they are 150 pounds lighter.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be interesting. They go out the end of this month, and he's going to get carcass data on them. So we'll just see, even if they look smaller, how they do, because they, along with that double hair coat, they have a thinner rind of fat. So they should actually yield all right. But
and that'll be interesting to find out and see.
And then on the grazing side, Galloways are browsers. I mean, they'll mimic wildlife more than, I think that's why they work out pretty good on homesteading situations, because they'll browse on the brush, and we have a lot of forbs, and if I can get them to eat 20% more of the sagebrush, of just the brush in general, that's just increasing the value of some of those. So it'll be interesting. It's a work in progress. I'm not 100% sold on them yet, but I sort of like what I'm seeing with them.
And if you never try anything, you're never going to find this out.
Well, and if you have ADHD like me, you have to try something all the time. And I'm not knocking it, because I love trying new things. It's just
with
some of what gets me going.
With the thought pattern to add Galloway, were you knowledgeable enough about Galloway and you thought, hey, Galloway is the one I want to go with, or did you look into some other breeds as well?
Yeah, I looked into some other breeds, and Johann Zeitzman, in reading his book, and of course he's in a tall grass situations. I mean, you got to put this all in context.
You do.
I just worry on where you live, right? I mean, I'm not going to tell Angus cattle to go to Texas where but yeah. So I did study what I thought would fit in our environment better. Galloway was actually a herd that was pretty predominant up here in the 60s, and then Angus came in and sort of, and the higher production, the yada, 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 whatever Angus, did, sort of took Galloway out. But if you read some of the testimonials back in the 60s and 70s, the Galloway did some pretty fun things or pretty neat things for some of them herds. And and so that's why I settled on the Galloway, I guess. I didn't just want to get too exotic, and they had the bone structure, they had the hair, they had they had some carcass. If you were careful which ones you sort of selected. And one thing, there's just not any large substantial herds of Galloway. So when you're starting to pick out of some smaller herds. Everybody knows everybody.
Oh,
Yes, in that
yes,
business.
yes.
So, yeah, but yeah. So I just didn't want to go Simmental. I love the Hereford, but I wanted to stay black. I wanted to stay polled. And, I have some half-blood bulls that we actually used this year. So the quarter bloods, I'll be really interested to see,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I still, like I only have 4 of the Galloway bulls, and I have 16 of the Angus or 18 of the Angus. So it's like it's a huge, and I'll breed 80 head of fall cows this fall. And that herd won't get Angus. They might get some of my crossbred bulls that I've bred.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not going to get straight Angus. They will. Them little calves will have some hair going into the winter.
Yeah.
And one thing interesting, because last winter was the first winter that we wintered them, okay? And we had some June calvers. And those little calves on the cows, come through the winter better than our weaned June calves.
Right? Oh, yes.
So my theory or my philosophy last winter anyways was proved right. We just don't need June calves. And and maybe if I would have kept them calves on the cows, all winter, that would have been different too.
Right.
But just having that cow be the hired hand for that calf all winter, that is huge, and yeah. So
well, Todd, I think that's really interesting. I'm excited to observe and see what you find out going through that process.
Right.
I like the Galloways. I got a couple of belted Galloways, but boy, they were so small. And I don't know how they were. I hate to call him a trader, but a guy that goes sell quite often ended up with them. I bought them off him. Then they just didn't grow good for me. And I ended up selling them and not calving them out. And I kind of wish I would have just closed my eyes and kept them a little bit longer. Because I do have a half belted Galloway, half Southpaw that I'm really proud of her.
Okay. So I had one of these first bulls I bought start to get a long toe. Now, I don't know, but I wasn't going to breed with him. And he was young, and he's a Zenon cross, which is phenomenal carcass, supposedly. And I put him on corn for 250 days. And he was a 2.5-year-old bull, and I butchered him, and it's like the best beef I've ever ate.
Oh,
I'm not kidding you. And his hanging carcass was 1,200 pounds. So he got big. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he got big. And, it'll be interesting, like I said, to see. And those 2 bulls I bought out of Minnesota, and they were a little smaller framed than I wanted. And so the other 3 bulls I bought out of Roundup, and I went up and looked at his cows. I didn't look at the Minnesota cow herd, but Blagan's out of Roundup I did. And, I'll bet you his cows averaged 1,250 pounds too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yes. And like I said, the bone structure is pretty impressive on the Galloways. And I was told, they got sort of a short, stubby neck, sort of a big head. And, some of the old timers like going, oh, have fun calving them. And, we've had some calving issues, but for the most part, no different than our Angus bunch. If a mom decides to keep them in her belly a little longer, they're going to be a little bigger. I mean, just sort of how it is. So, yeah.
Well, very interesting, Todd. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient-dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. Todd, I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and talk about virtual fencing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you decided to make the leap into virtual fencing. Why did you even think about virtual fencing?
Well, so we started doing some 20 years ago. We started fencing our native pastures in half and in half, with barbed wire fence. And then we went to high tensile electric. We started cross fencing even more. And then we started doing poly wire. And just like everything, because when you want to make an impact, you gotta change that up.
Oh, yeah.
And this short duration, high intensity grazing. Well, for one thing, I tried to run my herd in one herd for about 2 or 3 years. When we first started with the heavy fencing, my water system just was not going to handle it. We started having some sickness. I started blaming some of my breed out on that. So we split the herds up. Well, when you split the herds up and you still want to stay under 7 or 10 days of grazing per year per pasture, well, then you got to start sorting your pastures, separating your pastures up to smaller pastures to do that. And so then that become pretty labor intensive. Hired a hired hand to do it. Had been researching e-fence for the last 5 years. So we've been researching that. My son thought, man, wouldn't that be a great idea? So in order to manage our 4 herds instead of the one big herd or 5 herds with our yearlings, we started, like I said, doing the poly fence. Well, that gets pretty labor intensive. And the burnout factor can kick in.
Right, because when you're doing a fence, I'm doing a fence maybe 1/8 of a mile. I'm assuming your fences are a little longer.
Yeah, like a mile,
Right.
And that's why we went and we put in a bunch of high tensile, electric, just to cut that distance to a half a mile,
Oh, yeah.
And so when you start doing that on 5 herds, and you can rotate that, so you can do 1 herd each day. You're not doing it every day. We're not on daily moves, but that still gets to be pretty intense. And then we have a lot of ash draws, which is unusual in our part of the world. Trees are a premium. And so we have some Canada thistle and some burdock. We have some noxious weeds. And we talk about epigenetics. Our cows will actually graze. We taught them to graze. They've taught their young ones to graze that stuff. But we have a lot of draws, and we used to just pretty much focus on the draws that we had to come in the fall before we ship calves, because you load them up with burrs and stuff, and that's just that's in the winter.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of draws in amongst our cropland that needed to be treated. Man, to do that with poly wire, and we have white-tailed deer and elk and a moose, right? When you start doing regenerative agriculture, I steal the like, if you build it, they will come moniker from Field of Dreams.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like when you start building some of this stuff, regenerative agriculture, you're the fresh grass, the moor grass, the cover crops, all this stuff, the elk might have been floating through anyways, and the moose might have been floating through anyways. But all of a sudden, when you start making this thing better, they just stop and they stay.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime, like on a regenerative site, they'll put something unique like that up. I know Alejandro had a bird that he hadn't seen forever, and I put on there, if you build it. Because I do just think that is really what regenerative is about. So anyways, we have that stuff. Well, when you have temporary fence next to a cornfield and you have the whitetail and the elk and the moose running through it, and now all of a sudden you have your cows in there. So it was like, okay, what do you do? Well, finally, eShepherd is the one that we settled on. We were looking at halter and vents and no fence. and I narrowed it down between halter and Gallagher or eShepherd through Gallagher. And I met with both of their sales reps, and we used some Gallagher product in our temporary fencing. And, they've been a fencing company for a long time. And I guess that's who I went with, and I'm happy I did. But it has allowed me to go up and down those woody draws with and if people are, wondering, I think I posted some of it on my Facebook page. You can see some of the pastures I built that follow those woody draws up. And I have pictures like next to an alfalfa field, next to an oats field, and you can draw a line where the cattle were grazing opposed to not. I mean, that fence works. And in their program, you can see how many times they get the beep and how many times they get the shock. And, after 3 weeks of having them on, they respect that beep 90+% of the time. And you wonder if that other small percentage of the time they're just getting bumped or something by another cow, when they're grazing up against that line. So, we did that. And I guess one of the downfalls is we probably got rid of our hired hand, just to sort of offset that cost. There's some grants and stuff available for them, but we didn't do that. We wanted to do this first 150 head. We just went ahead and bought them on our own. And so we have 3 herds on them. And
Have you changed your grazing practice any as a result of putting those on?
Well, so we've shortened some days up, right, on some of our pastures. And of course, we're grazing stuff in the summertime that would always be winter, would be our stockpile forage. Because our crop ground, we don't have square 80s and squares, they follow the contour of the ground. So there's a hilltop out here. You farm around the hilltop, and that's just our geology of the ground. So some of our stockpiled forage that only got grazed in the wintertime and a lot of times late in the fall, because we didn't want to expose our calves to the burrs, so we'd do that later on. We're grazing them now. So there's a huge benefit to a season of use change on that, on that ground. I mean, ground that hasn't been grazed in the summertime for maybe 5 generations. Is now starting to get grazed this time of year. So that's huge, in soil health, changing that up. And so that's where like a lot of our snow is caught, because we have wind too. We just don't get the 50 below. We get the 50 below with the 30-mile-an-hour wind too. So a lot of our snow ends up in those overflow areas, right, or in those drainages. And so if we're trying to graze them in the wintertime and you have 5 foot of snow piled up in there, well, you don't get a lot of grazing. Which, when we started to go to April calving, that sort of was nice, because by March or April, a lot of that stuff is starting to melt out, right? And we'll get some use out of them. And there's a lot of winters we won't even be able to use our stockpile forage, because now all of a sudden we're in there cropping and the cows got to come out, unless we got a cover crop or something like that in there. So these e-fences are amazing for that. I mean, because the section 27 that we have, we lease it from a lady from Georgia, and it's a 640 acre pasture, and it has 4 draws that run the full length and they funnel into Coon Creek that runs by our ranch. And so, if I was to put temporary fence on that, it'd be like 7 miles of fence. And so we've actually, this is the first year on there, and it's worked out really, really well. And of course, we gave the collars the test right off the bat, because there's trees, and we went with the collars that direct to the phone satellite. We didn't put the base stations on our place, which saved us about $10,000. Which was, it costs a little bit more a month for the monthly fees to use them, I mean, you have to have cell service, right? And in this particular section, there's parts of that doesn't have cell service. But we're fortunate enough where the water is actually has the cell service.
Has that been a problem in those areas where there's not cell service?
So what I learned when I'm switching pastures, like I'll go out and maybe set a alfalfa bale out where there's service, right? Just to sort of entice them up there so everything reads. Yeah. So
you want them to go back in the service area so it gets the new data sent down, and then they're okay.
And then, I don't have the computer program figured out as well as I should. And there's some glitch, there's some things that I think that Gallagher's going to figure out that makes it easier for us too. We were talking about our education, in the 90s. That's when the first computers came out, right?
Right.
And look at how they've changed. And
we're very early on virtual fencing.
Very early.
There's a lot of growth, a lot of adaptation, a lot of changes that'll be coming in the next 10 years, next 5 years.
In the next 5 years. And that's, sometimes you'll go to these conferences and these people go, oh, just give it 5 years. Well, when you're in your 50s, you don't have a lot of 5 years left, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's like, well, I'm not going to wait 5 more years. I'm going to do it. And, and one of the things that was holding me back on Gallagher was the footprint of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty good size collar, It
is.
And I just thought, wow, how is that going to work? And we are having a little bit of an issue with them right now. And it might be a fitment problem because not all the cattle have it. They're starting to develop a lump right in front of the collar.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if it's because that collar gets to swinging, and then bumps them and you get a bruise, and then that bruise starts into a bump. Now, for me, it's not a game changer yet. I'm thinking that maybe I made the ones that have it a little bit too loose so they get to swing it a little too much.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I think what's happening is they're fighting flies some too, and so
and that's contributing.
Yeah, and I think that's contributing to it. And we're trying to be as regenerative as we can. So we've eliminated some of the fly tags and fly control just because we're sort of dung beetle fans, right? We root for the dung beetle.
Yeah. Do we like better?
Yeah.
It's the dung beetles.
The fly or the dung beetle? Well, I guess I'm going to have to take the dung beetle, right?
Right.
So, but I think, like I said, we're in the front end of this. And if we don't experiment with it, if we don't find some of these problems, how are they going to fix them?
Right.
I mean, these problems are going to be there. So maybe in the systems in New Zealand where there were dairies and they went out and maybe they have some, pretty heavy fly control there. So maybe they can make that footprint smaller. I mean, that's one thing Halter has is a smaller footprint.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was sort of looking into Halter, but, I needed a bunch of stations that were expensive. I hope that there's some companies that are just as good or maybe even better than Gallagher. So it keeps the price down. Competition's a good thing,
Yeah. You do need some for innovation, for pricing, because as you talk about the size of that, as we look at technology, in the 80s, early 90s, we would have never dreamed we'd carry a computer in our pocket. It's going to be interesting where this goes.
Everybody asks me, when I sit on a panel or, what is the biggest influence or, what makes your operation so doable now? And I say, well, it's GPS.
Oh, yes.
I don't care whether it's these e-collars, knowing where these cattle are. I mean, I can go on my cell phone right now and bring up my cow herd.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tap on that cow herd and we're calving, right? Now we're calving. So I see a cow that's off by herself. I can tap on her little button and it gives me her name. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's my woody draws. And, you can see my virtual lines and, this cow's off by herself. Large green take 3058. Well, It's a chance she's out there having a calf.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to send Molly out there, my wife, to see it. So, I mean,
Right.
but that's all GPS, you know, and
Yeah.
my sprayers, my tractors, my everything, you know, it just saves on fuel, saves on just, instead of having to drive out and check these all the time, I can check them on my phone if I'm in Billings or if I'm somewhere else at a convention, you know? So, yeah, so yeah, I think a lot of the stuff I have to do on my computer that's not on the phone app, you know, and maybe eventually they'll make it to where I can do it on the phone app. But, you know, my son in North Dakota, 60 miles away, he has it on his app so he can check the cows for me.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? And I mean, it's unlimited amount of people that can have it on their phone. And I suppose that's why they have it, you know, so somebody's not messing with changing your pastures and stuff. I can shut the collars off on individual animals with my phone, you know.
Oh, okay. So, like,
in
if
order
you need to get an
if I need
animal
to
in or something.
yeah, yep. If I'm out there and I need to get a bull in or something like that, I can shut him off, you know.
Oh, okay.
But you know, another thing that's cool about this is so when we weaned off the fall calves cows this spring in March, we separated them for a couple months. Well, then we put these collars on in June, right? And in order to get the way I wanted to graze, I threw them herds back together. So I threw the calves back in with their cows, but the cows had been dried up, you know,
Right.
for 2 months. But I needed the numbers. And so I put them back together, put them out in this draw that I just showed you, where there's just a few. And about 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking, man, I need to sort them calves off of them cows. So there's only one water spot in that pasture, right? So I make a pasture around the water tank for the yearlings and around the water tank for the cows. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And when they came to water, the yearlings stayed in their pasture and the cows stayed in their pasture. So I sorted my yearlings off without even having to go out and physically do it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, and then when we first, you know, they want you to train them, so they're in the training. And then I moved them to this pasture, and I had to go down a mile of county road, and we were branding that day. So I opened that road up, sort of got them to that corner, and I had a wheat field right alongside that road, and they moved themselves to that pasture because I had it fenced off of the wheat field. My little nephew came out and he goes, "What are them things on their neck?" And I said, "Well, they're my e-fence." He goes, "Well, they must work because them cows are sitting there looking at that wheat field and they're not going into the wheat field."
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I made the comment, I moved my cows without a $45,000 side by side, but with $45,000 worth of collars, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But, you know, by the time we got done branding the other bunch and putting the collars on the other bunch, they had moved themselves to the pasture that they needed to be.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, so the potential of these collars is just, you know, use your imagination, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I have 100 head of my heifers that I breed, and then another 250 head of cows that aren't on them yet. So, but I envision that they will all be on them.
Well, that's my next question. Do you plan on expanding those to all your herd?
Yeah,
All your animals?
Yeah, I really do. Because like I said, in the regenerative aspect of it, most of our pastures, we're not in more than 10 days
Oh, yeah.
for 365. And then we'll rotate them pastures. So sometimes it might be 400 days before they're ever in that pasture again. Okay. We are a believer in, you know, taking it down. We can't get to all in my growing season yet, but I'm envisioning with these collars that maybe I can skim graze through. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But I go to a lot of the seminars and tours and I, you know, that's one thing nice about regenerative. It's not a recipe book, you know, you can.
Right.
So I like to take a lot of these ideas from a lot of different grazers, and Ray Bannister out of Weibo, he's getting up there in age, but you know, he has a boom bust system and he'll graze stuff like a fire Like, he wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
graze it all. And then he monitors the road ditches. And when that pasture gets up to the road ditch height again, then he'll graze it again. And sometimes that's 2 years. Like he'll be 750 days, 700, 800 days without going back into pasture.
Oh, yes.
And so imagine the epigenetics on them cattle. You just can't take cattle in and do that. I mean, he's built
Right.
that herd up through
Yeah.
the years. And, but when I was trying to get my cows to eat Canada thistle and burdock, I thought, Ray does this, and it's almost like you having a kid eat broccoli. Once they take a liking to that, you know what? They search it out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny. I'll turn my cows into new pasture with Canada thistle or burdock, and that'll be the first things they go to a lot of times, And so yeah, so I thank Ray for that. And also, we have 50, 75 different species out in our pastures. I mean, Mother Nature and their native, a lot of diversity.
Oh, yeah.
And in order to get that palate adjusted to some of that, it's just sometimes you have to do that. So once a year, on what we're, right now, even the way we are, we're split up into like 42 pastures, right, with the permanents. And right now, I will take one of those pastures, and I call it the Ray treatment. I'll just go in there and I'll do that. I'll just graze it down.
Oh,
just
yes.
so them cows eat everything they have to eat everything. And that pasture might not get used for 2 years, just like Ray. But, we got them down to half or a quarter section. I mean, we have 2 full sections that are half section pastures, right? Them are our biggest pastures. But everything else is quarters or less. So even if we don't have to touch one of them for 2 years, it's not like we're taking a huge part of our operation,
Right.
But I try to take one of the most diverse pastures I have that have all the grasses in them. Because, little blue stem, some people around here like, little blue stem. But, if we catch a heavy dew this time of year or rains or snows in the spring and softens that plant, and the cows they'll take that over alfalfa. I got pictures of them,
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I guess that's part of that epigenetics. Epigenetics and Latin seed bank are, I guess, 2 of the principles that I really, really like, because we have a lot of native bare ground too. And we have a seed bank for eons in some of that, and just try to stimulate that to get that to grow. And so, yeah.
It'll be exciting to see, just jump back to those e-collars, seeing where those e-collars end up in 5 years and what you can do on management. Because as we think about management and managing grass, there's things I want to do, but I don't have the time to go out and do them. The e-collars for eShepherd or the other brands give you the capability of doing some of those management things that you have some limitations for whatever. For right now, it's time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and like I said, you got to enjoy it.
Oh, you do, yes.
Yeah, that's just all there is to it. You're not going to be good at something if you don't enjoy doing it. I mean, or you will be, but for 1 or 2 years, and then you'll be done with it.
Right.
And, that's another thing too with Gallagher. You don't have to have a lot of numbers. All right. A lot of these other organizations or companies, they want you to have volume.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Gallagher down to 4 head. They want to ship you a box of 4 collars because that's what they come in. And, through everything that we're trying to do for our community, it is important to get these smaller sized places involved in some of this stuff. I have a really good friend in Colorado. They homestead. It's Marigold Ranch or Marigold Farms. And she goes, man, I just love to be out with my cattle. It is getting to be, pretty burnout. And it's like, try the collars.
Oh, yeah.
Because this regenerative egg or this regenerate is huge, needs to be done. And if we can't do it time or, it's hard to get out there when there's a blizzard. Or it's hard to get out there when it's raining, or it's hard, some of that stuff is limiting. But if you're sitting in the house on your computer and you can change it in the rain, you can change it in a blizzard, you can change it however, yeah. And then those of us that like change or like to do things different, we can even find different things and different ways of doing it within the system,
Oh, yeah.
just use your imagination and it's there. And the support network with Gallagher is there. Cheyenne Lambley as my salesperson. She checks on me once a week, just sends me a text. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, yeah.
You know, they can tell when you're struggling with your pastures too. Especially right off the bat, they monitor you pretty good. I mean, they can see your ranch. So I got a couple texts out at Kansas City. Is that where one? Anyways, like, so how's it going, Todd? It's like, how did you know I was struggling?
Oh, yeah.
So, and they're always asking, hey, what can we do different? I mean, as a producer, I put in, it'd really be nice to be able to edit a pasture that's going, because the camera, like I've put in some water facilities, in the last year that don't show up on my map.
Oh, yes.
And so I'm actually in a CSP where I'm doing 7-day moves, right? And I can't find, I can still drive with my app and it shows me where I'm at, but to get precise with that,
Oh, yeah.
it's hard. So it'd be nice to be able to edit an ongoing pasture, because in order to edit, you got to shut that pasture off. Well, when you shut that pasture off, then they can go anywhere, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
you can copy that pasture and just move your lines a little bit and then start that pasture. And once they're all checked into the satellite, then your existing pasture shuts off and then the other pasture goes on. It's just that then you have a bunch of little dotted lines everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's doable. I mean, very doable.
And it's just early in that technology. It'll get
Oh
there.
yeah. I mean, I think it's just going to be, if this is where we're starting out, it is just going to be crazy good
Oh, yeah.
in the future,
Yes,
because
exactly.
it's already crazy good. It's just going to be that much better. Nothing ever goes down if they can monitor the cost a little bit. But if you really want to think about it, the cost, if they will last 7 years, I mean, they're only warranted for 3, but they figure a 5 to 7 year life cycle on. And and that's another thing. Gallagher has a good solid product. I mean, their regular fencers are a good solid product, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you divide that $250 over the 7 years, it's $35-$40. And then the $2 a month that I have to pay because I have the direct to satellite.
Right.
The cost factor, if you start putting all that stuff together, is really comparable to halter, if not actually a little bit cheaper. And there's a couple cons. I told you about the bumps.
Yes.
I want to be completely honest. Everything that I had fears of before I bought them have actually come into fruition. I mean, I've experienced it.
Yes.
I like that. One thing that's nice about having that big system is when they get pulled off, like we've had them get pulled off in the draws, right?
Right.
You can find them because they're big.
Oh, yeah.
And they're orange.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they show up on your phone if they're within the service range. So like that's a challenge on mine. They bounce off, they get service every 10 minutes. So say they're in service and then all of a sudden they get out of service and lose it. So then you got to sort of figure out where that 10-minute, circle is when you're searching for it. But you can narrow that down too. And we have not lost one. And a matter of fact, now maybe this is just my experience, but they said, as long as you can send a text, you don't even have to be able to make a phone call with your phone. As long as you can send a text. Well, they're getting service with their caller where I can't even send a text. It must be a better antenna in their caller than it is even in my phone,
Oh, yeah.
So
that's good to know.
So, I mean, in the redundancy, like we have 2 different companies, Verizon and AT&T, that have towers, and whichever tower is, is closest or better is what they do it on.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, I'm really sold. The other 350, 400 head, we'll have them on it eventually. It's just that I financed this bunch on my own.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
it's like, I do have I do the NRCS thing. I do have some grants out there. WWF, World Wildlife Fund, they have a actually a grant process for the Northern Great Plains, because it is one of the most intact ecosystems in the world. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
what is it, 135 million acres of 90% native, so there's some grants available there. I just, like I said, this first 150 head, I just wanted them,
Yeah.
and so I did. And
Yeah,
my son, it's funny, my son, he's 28, and he's pretty, progressive into some of this too, but he let his old dad check him out before he was going to buy him. And I'm saying, now, come on, son, I thought you were supposed to try the new stuff and the dads were supposed to come along.
Right. Well, I'm trying to convince my dad we need them, but I haven't got him convinced yet.
Yeah.
Todd, it is time we move to our famous 4 questions. Same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. This episode is brought to you in part by eShepherd from Gallagher Animal Management, the virtual fencing solution that's changing ranchers' lives. With eShepherd, you're in control of your cattle, bulls included, without driving a post or unrolling a single wire. It's a trusted, proven system built for rural road grazing. Whether you're running stock on flat pasture or rugged terrain, eShepherd gives you the freedom to manage your herd and your time like never before. Using solar-powered GPS-enabled neckbands and easy-to-use app, you can fence, track, and move your cattle 24/7 from anywhere. Forget daily fence moves and long days gathering cattle. With eShepherd, you set the boundaries, and your cattle learn to move themselves. It's smart grazing, backed by over 87 years of Gallagher innovation, trusted by ranchers across North America and beyond. Another big plus, you own the equipment. No getting locked into high ongoing subscription costs. Invest when it suits your budget and you're in control. So why go virtual? It gives you the flexibility to manage your herd remotely, anytime. Save time and reallocate labor. Utilize more pasture and boost productivity. Access land that's tough to fence or environmentally sensitive. And importantly, it can also help you improve animal welfare. If you're ready for more freedom, healthier pastures, and a better way to ranch, take a look at eShepherd. It's practical, it's powerful, and it's built to work the way you do. Check it out at www.eShepherd.com. Our first question, what's your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
Yeah, so I got this book at a seminar. It's Man, Cattle, and Velg by Johann Zeitzman. And even though he's in a different environment than we are, the philosophies are the same.
Oh, yeah.
Match your cattle to your environment. And so I do enjoy reading on that. I think I get more of my information on podcasts such as this.
Oh, yes.
Or I belong to a couple groups, EMRA, Eastern Montana Regenerative Ag Group, and I am on the Montana Grazing Lands Coalition board. I'm one of the board members on that.
Yeah.
And so we sponsor a lot of tours and symposiums, and I think in just our modern age, there's so many resources out there that are available. And then I've been pretty active with NRCS and some of these regenerative groups. So even on our ranch, we've had Dr. Alan Williams on our ranch, Fred Provenza, and that's what's nice about regenerative too, is like, you have a question, just call somebody, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think, other than the books, I really do think podcasts like this or symposiums, seminars, keynote speakers, Ann Fisher in at NRCS introduced me to this 20 years ago. And, she's in Alaska now doing her NRCS thing. And I'm sure she's motivating some young kids for soil health up there too. But that journey, introductions to Gabe Brown. Like I said, Gabe came to Baker in late 90s, early 2000s. Jerry Doan with the Black Lake Ranch out in North Dakota. At that same seminar, we had Neil Dennis out of Canada. Looking at different breeds, Dr. Christoph Weider out of Canada, Hope, Alberta is now, or Hope, British Columbia. It's just really nice to visit with these people, one-on-one. Back Carter County, which is just to the north of me, we had Alejandro Carrillo down here.
Oh, yes.
And what a fantastic resource, what he's doing in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
On the desert, So I guess, in short, just not any one thing. I just really like the resources that are available that are out there. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned some excellent ones, but also beyond that, there's lots of resources out there once you just start looking and finding them. Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested in it, just Google it and you're going to find them.
Right, right.
Or you're going to know somebody that knows somebody, or, you're going to talk to somebody that'll get you into it. So, yeah.
Our second question, what's your favorite tool for the farm or ranch?
Well, right now, it's probably going to have to be the E-fence from eShepherd from Gallagher.
Yes. Well, very good.
Yeah, I just think that the potential in that is there. Just the GPS potential of everything. I think that's exciting right now.
Oh, yeah.
But probably, my favorite tool is my cows, because without the cows, you can't, right?
Exactly.
And our Barkley's homegrown. We have a little sign or a T-shirt that says, "It's not the cow, it's the how," right? I mean,
oh yeah.
Even if you have cows, you're still not maybe doing it right. I mean, you still got to have that how, and I think that's sort of nice about regenerative too, because what you benefit from that is actually in production on your place. It's not a sales. It's, like organic or grass fed or something like that. All your reward is coming from selling that product as organic or as grass fed. But, through regenerative, you're increasing your carrying capacity, you're increasing your diversity, it's all in the numbers game,
Yeah.
So, and if you do a great Judy style, it's all in savings because you don't have a lot of capital expense.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have a 4-wheeler to unroll your hay with, or you don't even hardly feed much hay. When you're stuck in a zone 3 in in the northern United States where you need a tractor sometimes just to get your kids to school, So,
yeah, it's a little different there.
Yeah, and then I got to give a shout out to Chad Peterson too. He's out of Billings. He's originally from Nebraska, and maybe you've heard of him and maybe not, but he really changed my mind or changed my attitude a couple years ago. Our Eastern Montana Regenerative Bay group had a tour on his farm it's east of Billings, about 20 miles.
Oh yeah.
And he grazes yearlings. And, he said, what's your most expensive, or, what costs you the most on your ranch? And it's the land. And he has a philosophy on how to increase production per acre on that land, but it's using inputs. It's using some processed feeds and stuff. But his saying is, I might be only 70% as profitable per animal, but I'm running 3 or 4 times as many. So that's like a 210 or 280% return. And he does the buy sell. It was just a really wide opener, because sometimes we can get into this, you can't use processed food, or you can't use tractors, you can't use this, but it doesn't matter if you have 100 head of the best cows in the world. If you're trying to make a living on 100 cows, you're probably not going to make you need to find that way to make that living. And if that is bringing some stuff in, you got to bring some stuff in, but you got to be, it's got to make sense too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chad Peterson has been a huge, a huge way of thinking for me. Yeah. So,
yeah. Our third question, Todd, what would you tell someone just getting started?
Do it. Just do it.
Do it. I like that. Do it.
Do the Nike. don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do something different. I'm not saying that Molly and I would have been able to buy this ranch that we're on doing some of the practices that we're doing now, because they're different. And
Oh, yeah.
it took me quite a bit of convincing to get my dad sort of bought into some of this stuff.
Oh, yes.
And I have some ranchers that pretty much think we're nuts, or some neighbors, you know. I always like this saying too. I sort of thought this one myself. You know, we live in a neighborhood, but we belong to a community. And our community is the regenerative egg community. We live in our neighborhood, and we got to be friends, and we got to be good neighbors. But, you know, when we start bouncing some ideas off of stuff, we got to go to that community.
So if you're a young guy, excellent point.
Yeah, when you're a young person coming in, find that community for support.
Find the community.
Yeah, find the community. And sometimes that community is absentee owners. You know, there's a lot of these ranches, and we lease from some absentee owners that are really fascinated with regenerative agriculture and with what we're doing with the bale grazing, with some of these with some of the stuff that the stuck in the rut 5-generation rancher that's still 75, 80 years old that you have a potential to lease from, but you might not be able to because he just thinks what we're doing is so different, you know. And they've been successful through the years, but the younger generation, just get out there and do it. There's people out here like us that'll support you. There's people like us out here that are doing some things that will make it easier for you to find an enterprise unit to come back onto your relative, your dad, your whoever's ranch, and try to find that $40,000-$50,000 niche income that makes it work. And so I say just do it.
Yeah, you know? Excellent.
And we need them. Oh, we need them.
Right, we do.
I mean, we can't let that 1.5% get to 0.5%.
Right. Yeah.
And it feels like it's going that way.
And it does feel that way.
I mean, we were sort of guilty on doing that when we first started out. Molly and I are doing we're doing 6 neighbors stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, wow, if we keep doing that, where's our schools going to be? Where's our town going to be? Where's our, you know? Yeah. So, you know, so we brought in the greenhouse, we brought in the fencing, just the diversity of crops, just as enterprise units to try and set an example on maybe what you can do to add value to your existing place instead of now starting to pick up other ranches.
Ranches. And lastly, Todd, where can others find out more about you?
Yeah. So Facebook, I guess, and Instagram, Todd Barkley. And my wife, Molly Barkley, she's my right-hand man. You know, she's really active. So we post a lot of stuff about the ranch on that. And then Barkley's Homegrown on Facebook. That's sort of where we market some of our product. And then we have a geothermal greenhouse. But we'll put a lot of stuff on the ranch on that too. And that greenhouse is an observation on regenerative. We're trying to do it regenerative organic. We're not organic on our other place, but the greenhouse is small enough. Our livestock in there, by the way, are toads and earthworms.
Yes.
So you know, we're incorporating livestock in there, but they're a little different type of livestock.
Right.
But yeah, that's sort of fun. And just, you know, I don't have the scientific names like when you listen to some people, but I do observe. I love to observe how Mother Nature reacts to things. And that greenhouse has really given me an insight on, you know, even how our crops and how our pastures react.
Well, very good, Todd. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And if you're ever up in eastern Montana, stop in and say hey, and I'll show you the ranch. How's that sound?
It sounds perfect to me. I'll have to do that.
All right.
I really enjoyed the conversation with Todd today. Obviously, using Galloway bulls on Angus cows to get a little bit more hair coat for winter protection is very interesting to me. Because when we think about these breeds, they've all got traits that they're better in, and there's traits that they're not so good in. So go out and find that breed that works for you or works for what you want. Todd wanted more hair on those calves. as his thought pattern is that it'll help him make it through winter in better shape, he went and picked out a breed that's going to do that. That's one thing I miss about that I don't like about the consolidation of livestock breeds. All these breeds were developed in a specific area with specific traits for that area. And we don't want to lose that. So I really appreciate what the, Livestock Conservatory does and other organizations across the world that do to save these endangered breeds, as well as we've got all these other breeds that we shouldn't make them look alike. You've heard me get on this soapbox about black Simmental. Anyway, the other thing is eShepherd. I am fully interested in virtual fencing. I think it's a game changer. I think it's going to allow us to manage animals in ways we couldn't manage them. I think especially for those of you that work off the farm, gives you the ability to move cows much quicker. And also you can pull up that map at any time and see where your animals are. I really like that. I am very interested in it. I think I've mentioned it on the show. I have not convinced my dad of it yet. And then you get into the debate. Halter leases the collars. eShepherd, you buy the collars. Then you've got fence and no fence. So all very interesting. It's important for us to research those and see how they're working. So I was really excited to get someone on that's using eShepherd collars. We had Joel on a few episodes ago, but he has not gotten to the point Todd is with the collars. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions about virtual fencing, hop over to the Grazing Grass community and post them. Obviously, I don't have too many answers for them because I've not used them, but we've got members in the Grazing Grass community that have used virtual fencing. So post your questions in the Grazing Grass community and we'll have a discussion about it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grazing Grass Podcast, where we bring you stories and insights into grass-based livestock production. If you're new here, we've got something just for you. Our new listener resource guide is packed with everything you need to get started on your listening journey with the Grazing Grass Podcast. It gives you more information about the podcast, about myself, and next steps. You can grab your free copy at grazinggrass.com/guide. Don't miss out. And hey, do you have a grazing story to share? We're always looking for passionate producers to feature on the show. Whether you're just starting out or have years of experience, your story matters. Head over to grazinggrass.com/guest to learn more and apply to be a guest. We'd love to share your journey with our growing community of grazers. Until next time, keep on grazing grass.